It will be, this is being recorded and it will be posted to our YouTube channel. So if anyone jumps on late, it's no problem. They can just watch it on YouTube later on. So we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, welcome everyone. We are so excited to have you all with us tonight. These town hall events were wildly popular. Both of the events that we posted filled up immediately inside of about 40 minutes. So that was really exciting for us. We are so proud and thankful for our highly engaged community. And this is one more example of our stakeholders who care so much about quality education in our neighborhood. And we appreciate you jumping in, getting involved, helping us drive strong communication from our A-rated district. So thank you very much for your participation. However, when our town hall forums did fill up so quickly, we had to go back to our very own mantra and remind ourselves that schools cannot do it alone. We just simply can't. We need our partners to thrive and excel. So that's when we called on our partners, APS and ASU, to help us with this format. Thank you so much to ASU for hosting us this evening. Their generosity has allowed us to welcome double the participants than what our technology was able to do. So thank you to ASU and our partners that are on the line tonight. The Sun Devil team is here in full force. Thank you to Lorenzo Chavez, Samuel Ortiz, and Casey Canto for helping us. And also to APS, Goodyear's own Jessica Perry, who's left the city of Goodyear and now is with APS, was instrumental in helping this partnership come to fruition. So thank you very much. We're really indebted for this. Let's talk a little bit about what our town hall will look like tonight. We are on a new format, which is Zoom, not Google Meet, so a little bit different than what we've been seeing in our other town hall formats. We've got a Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. It's a ribbon down there on the bottom toward the right. We're going to ask that you enter your questions into that portion of your screen. That way we can respond to you in real time in writing. You'll see the answers that we reply to, or also we can read some out loud if they apply to the broader audience. We will be keeping a running report of all of the questions and answers and comments that are typed, and that way we can use that content to further develop our frequently asked questions that will be updated again later this week based on the content of all three of our town halls. So let's go ahead and have a little sample. I think, Casey, you're going to accept a question, right? Maybe someone type a question into Casey, and then
they're having a hard time hearing you.
So then he's going to go ahead and reply to make sure that that worked.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sam, perhaps if you put me as an attendee, and then we can test out the Q&A function, and then you put me back as a panelist.
So I was looking at those options and I was unable to bump you as an attendee. I think it's because you're already a co-host. However, we already have the Q&A going live. We have 11 open questions that our attendees have asked as of starting our session. So the Q&A is live. And I do want to let everyone know if we are having issues with hearing, if you have any headphones nearby, that could be a solution. I know I've had that issue in the past, and we'll make sure that we're speaking as loudly as we can to make sure you're getting the information you need.
And then I would like to add one more thing, which is I see in the chat people are asking how to mute your microphone. But for all attendees, actually your microphone is not on for the Zoom webinar. The only people whose microphones might be on are the panelists, the people you currently see on the screen. But if you are simply an attendee attending today's town hall, you do not need to worry about your microphone being on or off, because it is automatically off.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you so much to our Sun Devil team. We're really grateful for your technical support. Thank you very much. So just as a quick point of reference for some housekeeping, if you have anything that you would like to follow up with after this session, please use that COVID@LESD email account. That is how you can communicate best with us. Any questions, comments, ideas for future content for our frequently asked questions, anything that you might need. If it's something personal about you and your child and very specific, then please talk with your school's principal, okay? But if it's general about learning models, big picture things, that can definitely go to our COVID@LESD email account. So really briefly, I just want to explain that at Litchfield School District, we use conscious discipline. That's our social emotional learning framework. And we use their rituals to help children feel safe and connected at school so that they can feel loved and confident and access their brilliance. And so we're going to demonstrate a couple of those rituals today. These are what we do with children every single day. We open all of our administrative meetings and our staff meetings with rituals from the conscious discipline framework. So for example, we do wish wells. That's when we take a moment to think about friends or people that we care about and put them in our hearts and give them some very special support, emotional support from afar. So for example, tonight we're going to wish well to Representative Joanne Osborne, formerly a city council member with City of Goodyear, and now at the state legislature. She's been tested COVID positive, and we are wishing her well tonight for a speedy recovery. Also, we're wishing well to all of our families and our stakeholders. We know that you're struggling right now. Some of your family members may be sick, and these are unusual times. They're stressful and they're tough, and you've got important decisions to make about your child's education, and we're wishing you well in this process. We are putting you and Representative Osborne in our hearts right now, and we're going to take a big deep breath and wish them well. Thank you. If you have someone that you would like to wish well, please type that in. We would love to wish well anyone that you care about right now as well. Another example of our social emotional framework called conscious discipline is celebrations. We open all of our days at school and our staff meetings with celebrations. We pause to chat about the great things that are happening around us. And we've got a lot of wonderful stories to celebrate. So tonight, a few examples are the HOT Community Foundation, helping others thrive. The HOT Community Foundation donated over 1,000 masks to our staff members so that when we resume in-person learning, our staff members will have their own mask, reusable, washable mask that they can use for added safety. We're also celebrating the Rotary Club of Goodyear Pebble Creek. They just donated $1,000 in the form of a grant to our chief science officers at our middle school program to support our STEM programming. We're really grateful and celebrating that. We're also celebrating our brand new website. It just launched on July 1. We're really proud of it, and we're gonna use this opportunity to show it off a little bit also. So that's the end of our celebrations for our conscious discipline portion of our town hall. But let's jump right in to our format now. Thank you. Let's start with some introductions. Who do we have on the line? You already met our Sun Devil team that's here for some tech support. They've been so great and we're grateful for that. Of course, we have Superintendent Gunning. She's the star of the show. We're gonna hear a lot from her very soon. Also on the line is our Director of Special Education. Melissa McComb has been with us for 14 years at Litchfield School District. She's got a master's degree in education. She's also a board certified behavior analyst, which is a really fancy term that says she knows social emotional learning like nobody else. So she is here to talk about special education services, and she's got a lot to share in a bit. And then we also are pleased to welcome our district lead nurse, Rebecca Shear. She's affectionately known as Nurse Becca. She's been out at Verado Middle School for 5 years, but is our district lead across all of our 16 schools. So Nurse Becca has been a registered nurse for 18 years in a variety of settings, including hospitals, in-home healthcare, nurse training programs. So she's our local resident expert. She's been instrumental on our stakeholder task force, and she's going to weigh in later when we talk about health and safety. So thank you to our expert panelists that will join Superintendent Gunning to help bring lots of great information for you about our life in the COVID era. Let's flip over to my screen for a minute. We're just going to peek. Let's see. I'm going to screen share here and show off our brand new website. Yep, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Let's see what we've got. Let's check out our new website. I want to make sure that you're familiar with it. First of all, let's pull that down. This is our dance floor today. This is the homepage of our new website, and it's got a new address, but if you go to the old address, you're going to get pushed here, so don't worry about that. The COVID section of our website, I want to make sure that you know where to find the most accurate information about COVID for us. Because we hear a lot of folks who call and say, I heard through the grapevine, or I heard a rumor, and that's not the best information. You'll want to be going right here to COVID on our homepage of our website to find what you need. And if you click down here, over here is a really helpful section. Okay, let's get this over for you. Let's try that. That's better. Okay, so today you got your learning model commitment forms. That was a really big email that we pushed to you all today. Those are due this Friday. Superintendent Gunning is going to talk about that. So you can just click on what you need and start that survey there when you're ready. What we do want to sneak peek at right now, FAQs you should have seen. We're going to update them again later. Learning models, you've seen that for a while now. These really aren't new. Check them out if you have a question on which learning model might be best for your child. That's where you're going to get some more specifics about our 3 learning models. But let's look down here. We've got our health and safety measures. I'd like to look at that with you for a moment, just to highlight a few really important things. Because yes, face masks or face shields will be required when we return to in-person learning. You don't have to wear both. It's one or the other, and that's for staff and students. Very important. Please read through this thoroughly if you haven't had a chance to already, because it is very useful. You're going to read a lot about how we are cleaning, disinfecting, sanitizing school buses, bathrooms, all the details there. When you scoot down here, we'll go ahead and bring attention. We aren't doing field trips, of course. We're not doing school-wide assemblies, no large gatherings. That's the same for open house. We're still determining what the format will be for our open houses, and your school will give you a little more specific about that. But we might end up in a virtual environment there. So stay tuned for a little more information about that. If you scroll down a bit more, you're going to find a bit about food services, and a biggie here is no sharing. That's new for our students, right? We're teaching kindness, we share, we love, right? But in this case, we don't share carrots, we don't share crayons. So you can help your student already by helping them learn that we're not sharing anything when we get back to in-person learning. And you can also help them right now by helping them become comfortable with the masks that will be required. So helping them learn how to put them on and off and how to wash their hands really well. Those are things we can be practicing right now on our summer break to help kids return to school with confidence. And I think your teachers are really going to appreciate it as well. If you scroll down a little bit more, I just want to make sure that we're clear. Right in here, we are not going to be accepting visitors or volunteers on our campuses when we get back to in-person learning. Eventually we'll get there because we really do rely on our volunteers quite a lot, but we're not going to be ready right out of the gate. So please reach out to your local PTA, your local PTO, get involved with them. They've got a lot of outstanding virtual opportunities, but we are not looking at volunteer opportunities at this time. So that's a little sneak peek about some things we're going to be talking about soon. Let me give you an indication of our format right now. Superintendent Gunning is going to give some of her opening remarks, and then we'll basically talk about 3 sections: special ed, learning models, and then health, and safety. If you know what your questions are, it would be helpful if you could hang on to those questions until we're on that topic, just as we try and organize all the questions. We've been finding that we've got more questions than we can cover in an hour, but we're gonna try. And we're capturing everything to address later if we don't get to it now. So let's launch right now. Superintendent Gunning, why don't you take it away?
Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here and so grateful that you've joined us, and to really thank you for being so flexible during this time. I know it's a difficult time, and we have been working tirelessly over the summer time to try to put things back together and designing a very strong reopening plan. With that being said, a celebration for us is all of the committees and task force that have worked all summer long. We've had over 100 employees involved in this process, as well as some outside stakeholders in helping us navigate and determine and get down to the details of opening, which I've already seen some questions about, like arrival protocols and dismissal protocols, and they are working through all of those great details. It's an honor for me to be the superintendent. I've been with the district for over 18 years, and this is my 4th year as superintendent. My kids attended our district. They're grown women now. So one is in the Navy and one is in veterinary school. And to just see the impact of COVID as it's hitting everyone, my youngest daughter joined the Navy, and she has been gone, and I haven't been able to see her since. So she's gone through basic training and is in San Antonio for training right now, and they're still shut down from a military perspective for COVID. And she'll be leaving me soon for Japan, and I will not get to see her before she leaves because they are pretty much quarantined and will travel directly to their base. So it's affecting so many families in so many different ways. I'm also a West Valley native, born and raised, haven't moved very far, live next door to my parents in Tolleson, and I love this area, love the Valley, and I love our community. And so as we travel through these difficult times, I think that's where it definitely pulls at your heartstrings, and looking at all of your questions and all of your concerns, they're definitely valid. And I am right there with you as we approach the start of school. We know that definitely we're starting our distance learning on August 5th, and the governor has the date of August 17th for in-person right now. We also know the COVID rates are continuing to rise. So we were just not really sure what the actual in-person in the building start date will look like. What we will be doing is not only staying in contact with the governor's office, the Arizona Department of Education, but also our local Maricopa County Health Department in researching and determining the safety, because we want to ensure it's safe for all of our staff and students to return to our schools. So that's kind of where we are right now. I know there were a few questions already in the chat box about who determines and how do you determine. And so we want to use all of the information in determining those aspects as we kind of watch and navigate through this time, but we want to ensure the safety of our children and our staff.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's dive into some really good questions right now. Melissa McComb, you're up. Can you give us an overview of special education services, and then we'll tackle some of these questions.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I'm Melissa McComb, Director of Special Education, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview as to not take too much time. During the closures, we will be providing special education services to the best of our ability, in addition to the services for general education that your child may benefit from if they typically do participate in those general ed services. These would consist of daily services provided virtually, so different from the spring where there were less services while we were figuring out how to do the platforms and how to get as much as we could to you. These will be increased services offered on a daily basis to students, but they do still require a lot of parent support, of course. Once we get back into school, then the 5-day model would provide all services as typically provided, so that students can get everything that they had previously within that school model, of course, working within precautions. And then in a hybrid model, we would offer as many services as possible during that that in-person time, given that that may be the best time for the child to learn the skills that they may be behind in. and then possibly offering the opposite of skills, either those general ed curriculum opportunities or other special education services in the virtual model when they're not at school. If a student continues in the LESD Digital Academy during that time, then all services will be provided through that model consistently as listed on the IEP if the IEP team determines that that's appropriate. If they determine that it's not appropriate in order to meet the student's needs, if the needs are too intense to meet in that setup, then we will work on providing a separate virtual option for parents that wish to continue to keep their students at home. It would be basically continuing what we'll be doing in the beginning in that virtual option, so that they can continue to have that same option as general ed parents to keep their child home and continue to provide them with as much schooling as possible. We're also taking additional things into consideration with our students who are medically fragile and have higher medical needs, and making sure we have the additional PPE and making sure that they're not overexposed, and then making sure we're looking at our related services as well and how those can be provided to the best of our ability. Again, it would be much more consistent with the exact services that are in the IEP, but possibly not minute for minute, depending on that scheduling and flexibility, especially anything outside of that 5-day model. So I will watch the Q&A and see any questions. This is a different format for us, so we'll see if we can answer as much as we can. And then I will also put my email into the chat box, and if someone from my team will respond to you if your question does not get answered tonight, so that you can get the best information to make a good decision for you and your family. All right.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
We've got a lot of questions for you. So here's one. We're hearing, will the IEP committee have the final say in their learning model selection, or will parents?
Melissa, you're muted. Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, trying to be good here. Okay, so let me start over there. So in the Digital Academy model, because it's set up for when a typical Digital Academy would run and not just for COVID, the IEP would be reviewed once the student is enrolled. And then if it's that there's only a few accommodations or modifications that may not be able to be given, or something like that, then they would pull the IEP team together and make some decisions on those things. And it is an IEP team decision, which means if the parent was in disagreement with those decisions, there's still a due process available. Of course, we do everything we can to work with families as much as we can within our obligations as well. And then if it's not appropriate, then we may reach out to you and offer a separate virtual that would involve more of our self-contained, highly trained teachers, offering a virtual model that would probably fit that student a lot better and provide them different formats using possibly a different forum. We're looking into a more functionally based forum that we can use in addition to Nearpod, which will be used for general education. So again, it would depend on the student and their needs, but there's always parent input because it will be a IEP team decision.
Thank you very much. And just to be clear, if my student's on IEP, I don't need to contact you because you're going to contact me when the time is right.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless you have questions.
And so if I contact you right now, you're going to just tell me, hold on, please be patient. We're getting to this.
Yes. And yes, if we don't have the answers, we're waiting for that enrollment. So this week's going to be really important when we get the enrollment. That will give us a lot more answers to how we can service each student, how we'll be able to be flexible and provide those, whether there be any movement within programs or within campuses. All of that will come when we have the commitment. And I realize that, that means the moving parts of, you want our information so you can make the commitment, and we need your information for the commitment so that we can make decisions. We'll give and take as much as we can. But if you do have specific questions, you can reach out and someone on our team will try to answer as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. And we think social distancing and masks with kids is hard all the time. And it might even be harder in a special education room. So can you talk about that? What sort of precautions are you taking? And also touch on teacher training.
Absolutely. So there definitely will be masks or face shields required for all staff, as with others. And so if I know I saw that some are saying their students have difficulty with adults who may be in masks, that would be something to possibly begin working on. I know there are a lot of sites out there that have social stories and things available now that might help your child. If you reach out, I can give you some of those things, or to your teachers, because we will have to wear them. As far as kids, we will be working on those. We will do the social stories and the practicing and things like that. But we cannot disclude them from school for not being able to wear the mask, but we will be working as hard as we can to get them to be able to wear them, and to maybe, ease into it. If it's a situation where it's not happening and there are a lot of concerns, then we would come together with the family to see what can be done.
Okay, thank you. We've got a lot of questions here about developmental preschool. Can you speak to some of that?
Yes.
Mhm.
So developmental preschool was not in the commitment survey today, and that's because it's a totally different model. They don't have a 5-day model in the first place. So that would be confusing if parents were able to choose that. So we are developing a separate survey, which will go out hopefully tonight, but if not, tomorrow morning. And it will have the options there. We will be looking at a full in-person, which would be the 3 days, 3 hours a day, or a virtual at-home type of model. There won't be a hybrid model because we're already in a hybrid situation with smaller class sizes and with the limited amount of time that we have to provide services to our students. So we would have the 2 models in option, and then looking at how those services would be provided. We know that the online is not super ideal with our preschoolers, but that as parents, you need to have those same choices available, and just knowing that we're going to do our best, but it also does require that parent support, and we'll get through it together.
Okay, thank you so much. We are going to let you take a little break. We have found the most questions in learning models. Let's move on to that section because it's wildly popular. Lots and lots of questions. Thank you for
everyone.
your contributions, Melissa. Superintendent Gunning, do you want to wrap with any comments about special education?
I just want to thank our special ed department and the entire committee that worked this summer to help to put together all of the resources, the structures, and all of the components so they can ensure our children are receiving their services throughout the year and this upcoming year in the different models and structures. And also just a shout out to them again. They are just knocking it out of the park. This is a program and services that people travel all over the nation and move specifically into our district to receive those services for their children. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Why don't you keep that mic, Superintendent Gunning, and do a little overview about learning models?
All right, let's jump into the fun learning models. So I know there's lots of questions. I tried to scan a lot of them. So hopefully I can hit on a lot of your questions for you. I know that the commitment forms, there's a lot of questions of how do I commit if I'm not really sure, or I have a lot of questions. This is to help us with staffing. And this is to help us to try to gauge where our people are sitting. A lot of questions came in about, can I change my mind? Yes, we would. If you need to change your mind, that is an option. We're asking people to change them at interval timeframes so that we have time to plan and to restructure. Because as you can imagine, trying to staff for 3 separate models with 12,000 students and around 650 teachers has been quite the daunting task. But we knew that these 3 options were really desired by our families and desired by our teachers. So we're trying to make it all work. So with that being said, I know one dire question might be, okay, I make my selection now, and what happens if we don't go back to in-person model soon? What if that's delayed? If it is delayed and it's delayed for, maybe a more extended period of time, we would reach back out to you to confirm that your choice that you made now is still the choice that you're looking for. I know that these times and these options are for specifically these times during this COVID time. So it is really hard to see and to say what is going to happen in the future. We all dream of the opportunity of when we can be back in person in our brick and mortars, just like we typically have done. And we're just waiting for that time. Thought there would be a change in the summer. We thought heat was going to have an impact on COVID, but it did not. So unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball to tell you exactly how long the options will last. But of course, we're hoping that in the future, we'll be able to get back to normal and to have the more typical options for our families, and that families feel comfortable and safe doing so. With that being said, that's where it kind of comes into TA and honors. And I know a lot of folks really want those questions in regards to TA and honors. And right now we're just not sure, because it's kind of like the demand. What is the demand of the 3 models? And then trying to staff and operationally match those. And so right now it's really hard, because I'm not really sure if TA is an option in the 2 models of in-person and hybrid. On Digital Learning Academy, TA nor honors will be offered, but children will be pushed and excelled in those models as well. So they will definitely get their needs met, and they will have a lot of different opportunities for project-based learning and different structures to help stretch their learning as in that time frame. We will be modeling for distance learning the structures after the Digital Learning Academy. So there will be structures for during the day. Of course, the amount of time for littles, being our K1s online, is different than 2, 3, and of course different than middle school. So the higher the grade, the more time and opportunity online for that learning. We anticipate the learning will be a variation of in-person, like live action, as well as some recording lessons as in that too. There were questions in here about what if I'm a working parent and a lot of my child's learning will be in the evening. We'll have you work directly with your teacher, but I think that they will definitely be able to meet those needs so that your child can tap into and access their learning when it's feasible and when it's feasible for you. So we're going to try to make it just as flexible as possible. When our teachers return, they will receive 5 days of training on distance learning and what that looks like. We know all of our teachers need that. And we know that we want to have all of the resources available that will be provided in our online academy to our hybrid and our in-person, because we anticipate that we may have to flow in and out of distance learning throughout the year based on the conditions of COVID. So we want to make sure our teachers are highly trained and that we make it smooth transition as possible going in and out of whichever mode we need to do. Another question is about the scheduling for hybrid. We're still working through that. So it could be an AA-BB. It could be an AB-AB. So we're working through exactly what that schedule looks like, but it'll be structured. You'll know exactly what is expected of your child on the days that they're home, as well as they will have their consistent structure of their learning that will take place in the classroom. The curriculum will be used across the board in our online. It's our viable curriculum that we use in our schools and in our classroom as well, so that there's consistency, so that if a child does transfer from one or the other, they're very comfortable with the curriculum that's in use. So that's something that's important too. I know there's a lot of questions out there about working families, and we're definitely working on a lot of those options right now. And based on the executive order, I'm not sure if you're following along with Governor Ducey, but his first executive order talked about that we had to have a 5-day in-person option, or a 5-day option, a safe place for children to go. And we had to, and that we could have an online option for families as well. So that's where we kind of came up with the 5-day in-person, and then we had the hybrid, and then also online. So if you were looking for something, if we get back to our typical setting, the 5-day in-person is what you're going to want if you need a safe place for your child to go. If we end up having to close for an extended period of time, we're looking at what other options we can offer to those working families, because of course we want to help all of our families so that they can be successful and be able to provide for their families as well, especially during this very difficult time. So more to come on that. Stay tuned, and we'll get information out to you on those opportunities for you. Let's see. And looking at the Distance Learning Academy, will those children be connected to a homeschool? Yes, they will be connected to a homeschool. Now, which homeschool, I'm not exactly positive. It'll just depend. So that is something that we're working on and we'll be working on with the scheduling. Now, when they're connected, that means that when sports open back up, that was another question about sports, we'll have sports again when it's safe and we know that we can provide that safely. Then the homeschool that the child's connected with, that's the sports opportunity they could actually participate in as well. Also, we'll ensure that those students are included in yearbook and class pictures and all of those pieces because that's really important. A question came up about transportation. Will transportation be provided? Yes, it will be provided if you typically ride the bus. So if you're going to in-person 5-day and you're a bus rider, then there will be transportation provided. If you're a hybrid student and there's hybrid offered at your campus, then yes, transportation will be provided. What we are working on, and this is something that kind of goes back to some of the other questions too, is we are not positive at this time if there will be hybrid at every campus. So if you are a person who did choose hybrid, and let's just say you're at Dreaming Summit Elementary in your 2nd grade, but only 5 children chose hybrid, it just operationally, we cannot support that. But what we would do is call you and say, okay, we do not have hybrid in 2nd grade here at Dreaming Summit, but we do have openings in hybrid at Barbara Roby. Is that something you would be interested in? And so that parents would have that choice and that opportunity. We wouldn't just plop you into a random hybrid at another campus without your permission. So that's something that is really important. In regards to technology, we had a previous survey that went out, I believe back in June, and families were able to put in if they needed access to technology and kind of what their needs were. And based on needs, we'll definitely be supporting that. If you are in need of technology and you didn't put that in, you'll need to just feel free to email your principal and let them know what your needs are. And we can support you with that. And then we'll also have options and suggestions for you if you need low-cost internet service as well. So those will be available. We are working with ESI, which is our sub-coordinator organization. So we will be providing subs for our teachers. We want to have our schools kind of function as normal, and we're actually right now working in planning on bringing in subs ahead of time to train them in the distance learning so that they are well prepared to support our teachers as we travel through this time as well. In regards to middle school, they're working through hybrid schedule and in-person schedule as well, and also online. And having, as you know, it's kind of a little bit more technical because we have our highly qualified teachers that support the different subjects and content areas, but they're working through that and how the children will be supported in each of those content areas to meet their needs as well. When you talk about class sizes, we'll be keeping our class sizes to the typical size. So what that means is in a 5-day in-person, let's say the class size cap is 32, then that's what we'll be set for. If you were a hybrid model and your class was 30, then you would have 15 on A day and 15 on B day, but your total class would still be 30. And then online, we did give a little more cushion. So it was an opportunity for a few more students. So we bumped the class size just a little bit to support the online. Now, when looking at online and you're making the commitment for online, of course, if there's at interval timeframes, you could choose to return to in-day or in-day 5-day or in-day hybrid. But we really are looking for those online students who are really wanting to commit for a longer period of time, like 6 months to a year. But of course, we'll work with any family. And if you had a special circumstance in any of the models, we would want you to reach out to your principal directly to express what your needs are, and then we can see how we can meet them. I think that's all I have for right now. Are there more questions?
There's a lot. Let's jump in and clarify a few things. I think parents are still really wanting to know, what will the school day look like for their child? How much time will their child be on the computer? And will teachers be leading that? How much will parents have to lead that? Can you shed more light on that?
So our plan right now is that, of course, the time on the computer will differ again by age level. So in looking at the youngers, probably looking at around 2.5 to maybe 3 hours, just depending. Of course, kinders would probably be a little bit less. And there'll be short intervals for the children. Definitely building in brain breaks, special area opportunities, those types of things for children so that they have some break time as well, and community and class building. Attendance must be taken every day by the teacher, as well as grading will happen. So there will be assignments, and assignments will be expected and will be turned in, and feedback will be given to children. And that's something that is structured and expected within the executive orders from the governor as well. Now, as you go up in grade levels, of course, you'll probably see those times stretch. And as you get into middle school, you'll have different content areas sharing those contents of like math and reading and writing and those kind of things, and social studies will be built into their day. We are anticipating, and the committee is still kind of working through that in the training process for our teachers, but there'll probably be small group instruction opportunities as well for students throughout their day. But we'll give you, once you have committed to a structure and we have an assigned teacher, that teacher will reach out to you just like what happens at the beginning of a school year, to greet you, to welcome you, and to kind of let you know what your days are going to look like as you approach your distance learning and the start of school.
Thank you. Can you also clarify what you meant about how we could be moving in and out of different learning formats throughout the year?
Great question. So as, and I think this might have even been a question in there, so I'll kind of touch on it a little bit. But let's say, for example, a child or a staff member was diagnosed or COVID positive. If that were to happen, then we have certain protocol that we have to go through, as well as notifying our families, as well as working with the Maricopa County Department of Health in guiding us on whether or not we need to take additional steps. So depending on the numbers of the outbreak, and that setting, they could tell us we need to close down a classroom. That classroom would need to be basically quarantined, or those children and staff would go home. Or it could be a grade level if they deemed that it was a grade level outbreak, or it could be an entire school. So our staff and our families will have to just be prepared that we may have to kind of flow in and out of that distance learning. So that's what I meant by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. That's helpful. And what do you mean by combined classes or combined grades? And also, will classes or cohorts be mixing?
Oh, okay.
Like with hybrid and in-person learning, will those cohorts mix?
No.
And also, what do you mean about combining grades, like maybe hybrid or something like that?
I don't recall the combining grades. So think about that question and come back to me. But in regards to cohorts, so your children will be cohorted if you're in person or in a hybrid model. They're cohorted with those children. So if I'm an in-person and I have 25 students in my class, those 25 children are together all the time. Teachers will travel through special areas, those types of things. If we go out to the playground, which they are working on very structured play and distanced, it'll be my 25 children with me on that playground, and we will not intermix with any other cohort. Questions have come up about, will masks be required on the playground? And my answer is it depends on exactly what they're doing and if they can socially distance. We definitely want to provide opportunities where children can socially distance to where they can remove their mask and actually get some physical activity in as well. But if it's something where it's more kind of free play or something where they are closer together, then we would be asking them to use their mask. We will also have cohorts rotate through the playground equipment. So for example, if it's my day, my 25 children, we go out where we get to access the playground equipment. After we leave the playground, that playground equipment is sprayed down and disinfected before another cohort were to come out, so that we can ensure the safety of those children.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Okay, can you help walk us through even more of what a day in the classroom is going to look like, and when are parents going to know exactly what it's going to look like? We need commitment forms by Friday. What does that mean for parents?
So typical 5-day will be just the typical 5-day of what a class would look like in any other setting. Our school times are remaining the same, so they would start and start their typical schedule. Now, what will look a little bit different for your children, you probably won't notice, is lunchtime will look a little different because we need to keep our cohorts together. And depending on the situation and depending on the structure of the campus would depend on if they eat with their cohort in the gym, with their cohort in the cafeteria, or back in their classroom. So from that kind of setting, if it is a hybrid model, an A-B or AA schedule, they will have their schedule during the day that they participate in as typical in person. And then on their 3 days of distance learning, 2 of those days will be very, very structured as far as they're getting their like math or reading and those content areas. And then we also want to be able to spiral in some of the conscious discipline, community building, so that even though those children are separate and those cohorts may not see each other, the 15 on A and the 15 on B, that they're still interacting and having that opportunity, but also then that they have special area opportunities. As far as distance learning, it'll be kind of those structures throughout with their academics, as well as special areas, as well as any additional supports that a child may need with project-based learning or different opportunities that they could tap into.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We're getting tight on time. We definitely need to talk about health and safety. But can you just touch briefly, we've got a national teacher shortage, a statewide teacher shortage, and we have our guest teachers. So what does that look like? Especially, will guest teachers be traveling to a variety of schools and maybe taking some germs to each school with them?
We definitely do have a national teacher shortage, and when we're looking at our substitutes that we'll be filling in, we will definitely be looking at those pieces. Of course, the most important piece is for people to socially distance and use their PPE, and we're really pushing that. And that's something that we have been practicing all summer long, and I even saw in the comments talking about summer camp. All those pieces, we've been utilizing all of that information so that we can perfect our practice, so that when we get back to in classroom, in building learning. So we'll want to make sure that our guest teachers are highly trained and comfortable. We also will have disinfectant in all the classrooms that teachers can use, and classified staff will be supporting them as well, so that they are empowered to clean and take the steps necessary so that they feel comfortable. But it will be a little bit different setting. Teachers will definitely be practicing that social distancing and utilizing their PPE so that they do feel comfortable that when they go home at the end of the day, and based on what their next day might be, and practicing all of those pieces, we know with hand sanitizer, hand washing, and the protective gear, it's really, really important.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's a good transition to our health and safety questions. Again, health and safety measures are on our website now. Please check those out. But we have a lot of specific questions also. Superintendent Gunning, do you want to launch just with some basic overview?
Sure. So we've been working in depth. We have our health and safety committee that's been working on all of the different protocol and pieces for especially handling any children or staff members who become ill, and what steps we need to do, and the notification, and making sure it's very systematic and that everyone is confident. We're starting that training with our leaders this week, and then we will also be training all of our nurses. Our nurses and our HR department are our 2 main hubs, nurses for our students and HR department for our staff, in supporting what steps and what protocols to follow. Every classroom will have soap if they have sinks, so that they can encourage hand washing, as well as all classes, we ordered lots and lots of hand sanitizer because that will be definitely handy, easy to use, and it's easy to do and keep your children socially distanced. So that's something that's really important. We have a team that also has gone through and structured and set up classrooms and practicing that so that they can ensure social distancing. Now you're going to ask me a course of a class for a 5-day in-person, that could be a full classroom. But what we have worked with the Maricopa County Department of Health is that doing it to the best of our ability. And when that can't happen, which we did take out a lot of excess furniture, so separating desks the best that we can, that's when the PPE and the face coverings would be asked to be utilized and worn for our students. A lot of questions come through on what if a child refuses to wear their mask or face covering. And I would just say that our principals will work directly with the families in working through that. If it ends up that it's just not a good fit, you know, that face coverings are really difficult for a child, then maybe a different model or a different option might be better suited for the child. Our safety group is also working on all of those procedures of arrival, dismissal, walking out to the playground, walking to the cafeteria, coming back, restrooms, and making sure that we have ongoing cleaning throughout the day of our campuses. So that's something else that we are working on. So I'll turn it back over to Shelley to see if there's any more questions, or if you'd like to have Nurse Becca chime in.
Yeah, Nurse Becca, I know you're following along closely. Do you want to offer some comments, please?
Yeah, so I know we've gotten a couple questions about protocols and we are working through those, finalizing them actually. Step by step, we're going through protocols regarding, you know, if a staff member gets sick or if a student gets sick, and that information will be finalized and given out soon. We are training our nurses. We've already begun that. We're going to be training staff this week. And those nurses will be training staff at their schools. But yeah, we have been working closely with Maricopa County Health Department and following their guidance through this, through the entire summer, actually. So.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And do you have some type of special space in your nurse's office?
Yes.
I was
So,
hearing about?
so yeah, every school will have an isolation type area. It might look different for every school because every school's set up differently, but there will be an option for an isolation area or room in case there is a student that, you know, the nurse might feel that has COVID or, you know, highly susceptible of it. So we will isolate that student until a parent is able to come and get them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. That's really helpful. So I think to either one of you, Superintendent Gunning, you may want to take this. You know, parents are just trying to get their head around, you've got maybe 30 kids in a classroom. How are we going to social distance with all of these kids? Like, how are we really going to do that?
Well, the committee has been working on a lot of different strategies that I thought were actually quite creative, but they're putting different components on the carpet so that students know where their desks belong, so that we can keep their desks separated. Students will be facing the front of the classroom, and they'll be working a lot with procedure and protocol of establishing those routines, right? What does the routine look like when we enter the room? What does the routine look like when we go to leave the room? And always keeping that social distancing component in play. And then utilizing that hand sanitizer, utilizing the face coverings. I will tell you that the face coverings have been very successful in our camps. The children that we were a little worried, especially like littles, like would they acclimate? And they've done a great job acclimating. So I think that's been something that has been wonderful. Something I wanted to mention is that we will have extra face masks on hand for students as needed, just in case. So we want to make sure that families know that. We have actually a COVID warehouse where our schools will be able to access any supplies that they need in relation to PPE. And to support our students and our staff.
Thank you. And of course, absences are expected all of the time. So how would that impact a student's grading or schoolwork?
So we'll work through that. We know this year is just definitely going to be a little bit different. It's going to be different with staff. This is something that's really hard and difficult for teachers. Teachers want to be there and they want to be there teaching every day. And so, and the same with all of our staff, classified, support staff, food services. So it's definitely a different setting when we have to say, please, if you're not feeling well, please stay home. And that's really important because that's a safety for all. So we'll definitely work through, but absences are going to look a lot different this year than we ever had before. Now, what I will tell you is that if we haven't received communication or we're noticing that there's a trend, of course, they'll be reaching out to make sure that there's no more supports needed. Is there something else additional that you need to help support your child, as well as making sure that we're not missing something too. So we'll definitely be monitoring absences, but it will not be in the same setting, of course, as in the years past.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And can you just touch on our CARES Act dollars? I think a lot of that is in this category of health and safety.
So the federal government awarded a grant and it's called CARES funding. And with that grant, we received approximately $750,000. And we are able to utilize those funds to purchase PPE, which that's how we're getting lots of face masks, face shields, gowns for our nurses, extra gloves, hand sanitizer, soap, as well as some plexiglass for like our front office and dividers for some of our tables. So those pieces, and to provide training and to pull the committees together to do the work all of the summer to prepare for reopening so that we have procedures and protocols in place to ensure the safety of our children and to provide high quality learning. We weren't prepared last year to jump into distance learning, and this year it will be new distance learning because it has to look different, and we have the opportunity to provide the training for our staff so that they're ready to roll and to jump right in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Sun Devil family, if you'll just give us one quick little minute, we're going to just go over a tiny bit on time just to say thank you. Thank you, Sam. We appreciate that. Sam, by the way, has a wildcat in his family. So, and I don't mean Tucson. So Western Sky Middle School mentoring the family over there, which we're so excited about. So thank you to our Sun Devil family, letting us go over a little tiny bit more. Just as an overview, I'm looking at 245 questions here. Our COVID at LESD account is going strong. Lots of folks are connecting with us that way. Our principals have been in touch with folks. I mean, the communication is going back and forth so strong. So thank you very much for that. You can expect updated FAQs to reflect the culmination of these questions here. So you can also expect the videos to be posted at YouTube this week. And with that, I think what we can do is pass this on to Superintendent Gunning for some final remarks.
Well, I want to thank you all again for being here. Thank you so much for your patience and flexibility. This will be definitely the year of being flexible, but it'll also be the year of us joining together as one community to support one another as we travel through this time. And I want you to know that all of our teachers and all of our staff, we are dreaming for the day that we can open our doors and they are typical and that we can see all of our children's faces. There's nothing more rewarding than the smiles of our students. And that's what we desire and that's what we hope to get to. But we want to make sure that we're doing it in a safe way. And we want to make sure that all of our children are safe and that all of our families are safe because we know that this impacts so many. So thank you again for all of your flexibility. Thank you again for all of your patience. And thank you again for all of your support. Please don't hesitate to reach out with questions. And we will also, as needed, have principals reach out to you if your question is directly targeted towards a school in particular. So thank you again. And thanks for joining us and have a great evening.
Good night. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Sun Devils.
Thank you.
You're welcome.